Welcome to today's presentation. A question we get asked a lot by landlords is how to decide what rent to charge so the property is rented quickly at the right price, but also minimising expensive voids. So it's an important question that we all need to get right, and there are various things that we need to consider. So today we're going to look at conducting thorough market research for your product that you're going to offer to the market, things to consider when setting your rental price. We're going to look at the dilemma that we all face, which is rent your property quickly or get the highest price, and the factors that might determine how we decide that and get that balance right. And then we're going to look at an important topic that's often forgotten by landlords, is to review your rent and the process involved in that. So I'll guide you through each of these steps. At the end, I'll explain how you can achieve all of these things. So perhaps you don't know the rental value of your property that you currently have. Perhaps you're looking at buying an investment property and you want to figure out the finances, how much can that property be rented for, and that'll work out, is it a property worth buying, etc. Perhaps the rental market has moved and you're looking and unsure whether you're charging the right amount of rent in the current market. And we're going to just look at how to decide that rental price so you can make an informed decision. So my name's Chris Jones. My corporate career for 20 years was an accountant working in industry. I've been a landlord since 2005 and been investing and refurbishing properties for many years. I established Jones&Co in 2014 and I've been a letting agency speaker since 2016, a property investment meeting host since 2019, and more recently a podcast host called Your Property Business, helping landlords get the most out of their property business. Jones&Co was established in 2014. We manage hundreds of properties Norfolk-wide. We have services and products that include sales, lettings, property acquisitions, refurbishment and coaching. And we have access to a wide network of property professionals in and around the area. So back to it, how to decide what rent to charge to rent your property quickly at the right price and minimise expensive voids. So firstly, you need to know your market research. So you need to know that you're pricing your product correctly given all of the other products in the marketplace. So it's important to remember, as a landlord, your product, offering it to a tenant, and you need to be aware of the market that you operate in. You are offering a product and you have competition. So what is your competition charging? Really quick way is to use the portals. So the Rightmove, Zooplas on the markets, and if you're letting by the room, perhaps looking at spare room. So on each of these portals, you can do a filter on things like the area, perhaps the radius around a certain postcode. So perhaps half a mile, quarter of a mile in a search area. Search on the number of bedrooms, so you get lists of comparables, and then look at the results. So you might want to filter highest price to lowest price and then list them all out, and that will give you the range of property prices that you are dealing with or your competition is charging, and you will get the average value. And then you can make some assessment of, are you average, are you higher, above average, is your property below average? So just searching on the portals will give you a flavour for that information. It will also tell you the supply of properties. So if you have in a half mile radius 2 3-bedroom properties that are available, that will tell you something about the amount of supply. So that will also tell you if someone wants to live in that area in a 3-bed, then they don't have much choice. So there might be a bit more flexibility around price. However, if there's 50 3-beds within a half mile area, then you know you've got lots of competition. You've got to be maybe a bit keener on price. Your photos or your product has got to be better perhaps, and perhaps stand out in the marketplace. So doing that market research is essential so you know what market you're operating within, because you're offering a product to the market. Other things to consider. So demand, we've talked about demand briefly. So is your property in a high rental demand area? So you might know that intrinsically, but things that might indicate that would be proximity to a town or city, perhaps a popular suburb. There tend to be, a higher density of houses in an area would indicate a higher demand in that area. The number of bedrooms in your property, so smaller number of bedrooms, cheaper house, larger number of bedrooms, more expensive house. The amenities in your property, so do you have things like garages, parking, en-suites, gardens, and that kind of thing in amenities. That would be useful to compare your property against other properties. So the amount of space that your property offers, is it a small, property, or is it larger, open plan with perhaps more space that your potential tenant could utilise? It's important to know the condition of your property. Has it been newly refurbished, carpeted, new bathrooms, kitchens, decorating, etc.? Or is it a bit tired? Perhaps it's not had a refurb for a few years and it's looking a bit on the tired side. Those things will affect price. They'll also affect desirability. So when your tenant walks in or your viewer walks into the property, what's the instant reaction? Is it new decorated or is it a bit tired? Those things will help assess the price that you want to charge. And yeah, we've talked about how many similar properties on the market. You might find there's none in the area, at which point that gives you more confidence about your price. So this is a pricing triangle. It's worth having a quick look at this. So there's two sides to this. The asking price in relation to the market value down here. So you might say this is the market price. This is 15% above. This is 15% below the market price. And this is a percentage of potential buyers or renters who will look at your property. So at the higher prices, perhaps 15% higher than the market average, there'll be fewer people looking. So perhaps only 10% of people looking at that higher price. However, if you go and perhaps say the market value's here, but I'm going to go a little bit under that, you're going to get a larger number of people looking at your property, so maybe 90%. So this equation or this balancing act plays into how much you might want to charge for your property. And we'll talk about that in a second. So this is a dilemma I think a lot of landlords face. Do I rent my property quickly or do I wait and get the highest price? A couple of things. This is a very personal decision. I think it plays into the actual circumstances that you might be in. So can you afford the void? Can your property sit empty for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks or not? I mean, how much time have we got before it becomes void? We might have 2 months. Your tenant might have given notice. They might have given you plenty of notice. You've got 2 months, 3 months to fill it. So you might want to start doing viewings and then you've got a bit more time to play with that price. That might be a factor. So, but can you afford the void? You might look at your commitments. So if you've got a mortgage, perhaps at a high loan to value, and perhaps mortgage interest rates have gone up, and perhaps there's a higher burden on your finances, that might indicate that actually I can't afford to have it not let, I can't have it void, it needs to be rented. So that would play on your decision about how much you charge for it. Are you in a hurry? I think we talked about that. Have you got it needs to be filled tomorrow because it's void tomorrow, or I've got 3 months to fill it? So some things to play in there about time scales. I think it's important to calculate the cost of the void versus the extra amount of pounds per month you might get in rent. So let's look at an example. If you charge an extra £50 in rent per month, you will get an extra £600 per annum. But if your property, for example, the market price is £800, well, £600 represents 3 week void. So you might decide not to charge that £50 extra, just keep it a bit more competitive, fill it quicker, and then give you some security over what it's rented, and you've got some more security over your future tenancy. So some things to think about there about, do I rent it quickly or do I wait for the higher price? And importantly, it's important to have a rent review process. So what does your tenancy agreement say about your ability to increase the rent, by how much and how often? So it's important to note that you can't increase the rent for more than once a year. And it's also worth calculating the cost of not increasing your rent. So again, if that £50 example, if we increase our rent by £50, we've made £600 per year. There's often a perception that increasing the rent might scare your tenant and it might push them out and you might be facing a void. I think it's also important to note that the general level of inflation does affect everybody. So as prices rise, people pay more and people pay less, and it's important to keep abreast of that trend. So the impact of not increasing your rent for perhaps 5 years would be quite costly to you as a landlord. So bear that in mind, that there is a cost to not increasing your rent. If you decide to increase your rents, I think it's important to always look at that once a year. You can decide not to, but I think it's important to look at it and not forget it. So schedule it on the calendar. I'm going to review my rent in January or February, for example, communicate with my tenant and increase it, even if it's by 20, 30 pounds a year, that at least that keeps you abreast of the marketplace. And you can have a basis for increasing the rent. So you will probably know the market value of your property in the area, and you can look at more evidence-based things like the rate of inflation. There are statistics around that tell you the rate of inflation, and the Office of National Statistics is a great website for inflation rates, or indeed house price inflation in different areas of the country. So you can base your inflation or your increase in rent on some actual figures, which does give more credibility to your rent review process. So in summary, conducting thorough market research, we've talked about how to do that, things to consider when deciding your rent, whether you rent quickly or get the highest price will determine what rent you charge, and the rent review process. So now I'll explain how you will know that you are charging the right amount of rent. So if you enjoyed today's presentation and you would like me and my team to help you do this for you, then book a phone call with me or a member of my team by clicking one of the links below this video. So we do have spaces to take phone call appointments, but when the spaces fill up, they will be gone. So do book a phone call in one of the links below. And on the call, we'll listen to your issues, we'll understand what you want to achieve, and we'll give you our best advice. At the end of the phone call, if you feel like it's a good fit, and we will see if we can work with you. So until next time, subscribe to this channel, lots more content coming on this channel all the time. Like and comment on any of the videos that you've seen, and click on the links below to get other free content. And in the meantime, here is to the success of your property business. Thank you, take care.